We are.
We are.
We are.
We are the voices of.
The voices of.
The voices of.
The voices of.
Millennial women.
Where are you from?
All right, so I was born in Los Angeles, moved to Palmdale around the age of 4, and then I moved back to LA in like the 7th or 8th grade. Ugh.
Chicago, Illinois. Born and raised there. And my parents are from Iraq, from Baghdad.
Originally, I'm from Orange County, Whittier, where the girls are prettier.
I'm from California, but I was raised in Columbus, Ohio.
I'm from Los Angeles, California.
I grew up in South LA all my life. Born and raised there, actually. I went to school there.
I'm originally from Chicago. I moved to Inglewood when I was about 9 or 10, so I consider myself from LA. I grew up here, went to high school here, college, everything.
So I was born in South Central LA. I'm South LA baby. And my family immigrated from El Salvador, so I'm full Salvadoran.
Los Angeles, California.
I'm from Chicago. I was born in Chicago. I was raised in Dallas, Texas, the Dallas-Fort Worth, Arlington area for 13 years. And then I moved back to Chicago, and then I went to Ohio for college, where I moved out to Los Angeles. A month after college, I drove out here with my best friend.
Born and raised, Los Angeles, View Park, baby.
I was born in LA, but for a good amount of my life, I lived in Victorville, California. So I think I've lived here for most of my life.
I'm from Ohio, a small town, well, small city, Toledo.
I grew up in San Mateo, California, which is in the Bay Area, in the peninsula.
I'm from the Bay Area, Oakland area, but I was born in Sacramento, California, but I moved at an early age to the Bay Area and just moved around different parts. Okay. So I grew up on the hyphy movement and all of that, and I'm the Bay Area, I'm Bay Area.
I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. I was one of those kids who kind of got like bussed out to another school district because, we kind of lived in the hood. I wouldn't have described it as that as a child. Back then, I didn't even know that was against the law. I really didn't even understand why I had to do that. It kind of made me feel like I was living two separate lives. And it's almost an insecurity that I've kind of grown through my adult life. But moving into the future, when I saw women on like the news for doing the same thing, I was like, wow, my mom could have went to jail for that? That's a crazy sacrifice, to make for your children, for them to have a better education, a better life, better opportunities. And so, I am 100% here for any woman who is going to make a sacrifice, especially for people that they bring into this world. I think everybody should have the opportunity to get the best education possible. And it's a shame that is contingent upon the borders of your neighborhood.
The reason why my family and my mom even immigrated out to the US is because in the 80s, there was the Cold War, right? The Cold War was also connected with El Salvador and Central America. So at that time, the US was fighting with Russia because of communism. So rifles and the war and military and this type of control was also aided through Central America, and there was a suspicion that there were communists in El Salvador. So the military was sent over from different parts of Latin America. The presidents were sent over to the School of the Americas, where they were taught how to train to torture people. So a lot of killings are happening in El Salvador. There was a war amongst each other, so the poor revolutionized and they said, no, we're not listening to the military, we are taking control of our country.
Back in the late 80s, early 90s, El Salvador went through a civil war. for I think almost 10 years, if not more. I don't know the exact time frame, but that left a lot of trauma in a lot of Salvadorians, and both my parents grew up over there during the time that it was happening. So there's a lot of things that in my culture I'm not proud of because they're just so normalized due to all of the horrific things that people have been through.
Single parent, two parent, it takes a village.
I can say I had a wonderful experience looking back at it. Being in it, it just felt like life. It's not until I was older that people were like, oh, you know, kind of judgy about it. They kind of thought I was missing a second parent. It's, you know, when you're older, you start to realize, oh, there's the father takes her there, the father takes, you know. But I had father figures in my life, and I had a lot of love of one parent.
I had a whole village of people who were in my life, so I never looked at it as like, oh, my mom was a single parent, yada, yada, yada. I know by definition, I guess you could say that, but I felt like there were tons of people in my life to help me grow into the woman I am today.
Right when I moved from Chicago, that's when it became a single mother situation, and yeah, I'm thankful for that.
I think I had a very interesting upbringing. My parents divorced young. I was, I believe, 6 or 7 years old when they separated. And so I did kind of have equal parenting on both sides. But at that time that they separated, I actually joined a school that was kind of like an idea of a village raised as a child. And that really, I think, culminated a lot of my upbringing as well, in addition to my experiences with my parents. This school was called Afrocentric, and it was focused on like an African-centered kind of learning style. And like I said, it takes a village. So a lot of the teachers acted as like our second parents and took that role and responsibility.
One parent, single mother. Actually, my dad was in and out of my life, and my mother raised 3 girls on her own, and in South Central, South LA.
I am raised by my mom, single parent household. Dad's not in the picture, it's just me, myself, and her. But I'm not even going to discredit my granny, because my grandma was there for me the entire time when I lived in Palmdale until she moved to Kansas. So now she's out there chilling, living her best life.
So my mom has been with my stepdad, who I consider to be my dad, since I was 2. But my biological father was never in my life. So I never met him. He's actually Middle Eastern. So whenever I identify myself, I say I'm Salvadorian, which I am because my mom is Salvadorian. But I don't identify with his culture or anything like that.
I'm the only child. So it was interesting in a sense of having both of your parents. My dad is and has been the provider for our household.
I had a Cinderella story. My parents were together until I was about 5, and then after 5 they broke up. They got back together when I was 10, and they had 3 more kids, and they were married for 7.5 years, and then they got a divorce. And now my dad is remarried, and I have a great stepmom. And my mom is, I guess, single, living her best life. I don't know, she never introduced us to no man, so I don't know.
It started with 2, and then my parents divorced, but they maintained a really healthy relationship. So I'm very fortunate for that. I would say the only family that was actually really a part of my life, like my mom and dad were, is my big cousin and my aunt.
I stayed with my mom and my grandmother, and then my dad stayed with his mom. So yeah, it's a teen relationship, and later on they ended up getting married when I was about 10. And then we had my brother and my sister, so all 3 of us together. Yeah, it was, I would say, pretty normal, being that both parents were in the home, but my dad, he was like in the home, but not like in the home. You know, I knew he was there, but he wasn't really like present with us. So yeah, I mean, I guess it was different, but still normal in a sense that some people, like my friends, they would note to me like, oh, your parents are still together, or oh, you're, you know, just say something about my mom and dad both being in the house. And I was like, yeah, I guess, but I felt even still kind of like other people, like my friends, I still felt like, oh, okay, your dad's not there, but kind of like my dad's not there either.
I was raised in a single parent household. My mom immigrated first. She was the very first one in her family, so she had to be resourceful, borrow money from people. And she started working because she was getting ready to give birth, and her cousin kicked her out at like 3 in the morning. She got on the bus, and there's these girls that were going home from work, and they were waitresses that worked nights at a bar. They saw her and they saw that she couldn't pay. So they paid her money for her fare, and they asked her, you know, when are you due? And she was like, I'm due any minute, I'm 9 months. So these girls, I think there were like 5 of these girls that were traveling together going back home. They told her, you know what, we have kids. What if we let you live with us while you have your baby? In exchange, you take care of our babies. So that's how she kind of got her first friends here in the US.
Okay, so starting off when it was just me and mom, there was actually a period of time when we lived with my grandfather when I was little, and it was my grandfather, my grandmother, and my uncle. So I was always in a house full of people. And I think I'm used to that. Like, I need that like constant community. I don't think living by myself would actually be good for me as much as I say I want to do that. I've never done it, so I think I'm gonna just stick on that path. But my grandfather comes from a very interesting background. So I grew up being forced to try new foods, and you know, most kids, they stick with the same 6 things that they want to eat. That was not an option. I was forced to try all the wild meats you could think of, the alligators, the bear, the deer, actually alligators bomb. It's fire, especially if it's fried.
Taste like chicken?
Better than chicken. It was way better than chicken. Bear is like filet mignon ground. Super tender, super easy to season. I mean, I was just exposed to a totally different world of like country blackness that most city kids never get to experience. I grew up with a lot of pride in my last name. Like, Stevens means something in Pontiac, Michigan. Like, the last name, P.H. Stevens, is like the shit in Detroit, Michigan. So we have a rep, and I grew up with all of that pride, even in LA, where no one gives a shit about a P.H. Stevens. But our household, Stevens, there was an S on everything. There was S's in the tiles in the bathroom. Like, it was like being a part of a little royal family.
Name some of your childhood lessons.
Like I said, I moved to Dallas with my mom. She just had a divorce, so it was a single family, single mother, doing the best she could. And I don't know, it was very Christian, very strict. I had a stepfather at one point who was very authoritative, and that didn't go so well. And then after their divorce and I was in college, I think that's where I really found my own freedom and my own voice.
Living with a single mom, raising 3 girls taught me strength. Never to give up. I look up to her so much. She wasn't the most knowledgeable woman, but when it comes to love and family and never giving up and working hard, she taught me that.
I felt like a lot of times we were just in survival mode. Like, we was just like going getting things done. We was always at the grocery store. I have a distinct memory of always having to go to the grocery store with my aunt, and I was just like, here we going to the grocery store again. We was just there yesterday. I never understood that, like why we always had to go to the grocery store. But that's because we had a big family to feed, you know, and literally, you know, we cooked dinner tonight and it was all gone. So we had to go back to the grocery store. But, you know, I think that there was so many different personalities and struggles and also triumphs and just different things happening around me. And I think it's inevitable that a child will absorb all of that. And again, I didn't know any of this was happening like as I'm a kid, but as an adult looking back on it, I know I absorbed a lot of other traumas that weren't my own. And so it put me in a place as an adult where I kind of had to work backwards and get through those, and then also get through the ones that I actually had, and then get to this point where it's like, okay, cool, I know the things that are emotional blockers for me, and I have to like have the courage to get past those in order to get to where I want to go.
Principles, really just not judging people. That's the number one thing. Like I grew up not judging people because my circumstances weren't always the best, and also you never know where people come from. So at the same time, it's like, just like me, because of course I didn't grow up with a dad. I have a dad, but he wasn't really in my life as often as one should be. So my dating life is a little bit difficult because, of course, I don't really know how to, be in a relationship, I would say, because I've never seen like that healthy relationship between a mom, a dad, you know, happy marriage life, white picket fence. So, of course, I'm a little different.
We'll stay committed to family reunions. We do that every year. We'll try to make it fun. Even now and during Corona, we've done it online. We've had 2 Zoom family reunions, and it was actually really fun. It was really nice to see people, and a lot of people commented that it was like we got to talk more than actually meeting out at the picnic, because like certain people still click up, you know, you still talk to the family members you know the most. Whereas online, you really got to know someone and see family photos, and it was really nice. So that's something I hope to implement in my future family. It's that kind of camaraderie, that family bond.
2-parent household was super traditional, very Middle Eastern, strict, very strict on women, strict on the women in the house. I wouldn't say necessarily strict on the boys so much. Really great. My dad was a public speaker. He was a political activist himself. He was a man of the community because our Assyrian people, Assyrian with an A, are displaced in the world because of political climate and things that have evolved decades and decades, hundreds of years. And so the diaspora is scattered, and obviously, and he was advocating for our people back home. My dad was great. He had his flaws as a man, and it was amazing to see him as I grew up and became the adult that I am, the woman that I am, because he evolved so much in his life. The household was very traditional, and that coupled with some character flaws, some traits that weren't necessarily adopted, being from the Middle East, being first generation to a new country, it allowed for a lot of toxicity in the household. It allowed for room for just an unhealthy environment, a lot. There was a lot of it. And I witnessed the women in the household, which was my mom and my sister, endure a lot. They allowed me to have the freedom that I did. They became less strict with me, but it wasn't without the advocacy of my sister and her support. She like snuck me out. I remember there was a 8th grade dance, and we were not allowed to go to a dance. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? A school dance? Definitely kill that. And she snuck me out. She had the car. This is terrible. She had my clothes in the car. God, and we said we were going to the library. I forgot about this. Anyway, it was terrible. But it was harmless, you know what I'm saying? It was just an 8th grade dance. Not even like prom or anything. I was the only person in my family to go to prom. Definitely the only woman to go to prom.
I think just respect, like being able to respect both parents, both opinions, but knowing that they work together to make the household work. I never saw my parents argue. They were super strict with me. Like I didn't see Baby Boy until I was in college. Don't even judge me. I saw the BET version until I was in college. Didn't even know the mama had a whole sex scene. I was like, yo, where did this come from? I was raised in a culturally Americanized household, but my dad is from the Caribbean. So my grandparents and anybody that's 30 and up, they all have like a traditional Caribbean household. So with that, culturally, Caribbean men are different. They very much so think that the women should take care of the household, do everything for the household, and the men kind of just bring home the bread. And you know, they do what they want to do, but for the most part, the women take care of the kids. They do, you know, dinner, cleaning, all of that stuff, bills, all taken care of. They just kind of like, here's what I did to bring home the bread for the table. You figure out the rest.
I feel like the independence of both parents, especially my mom, I feel like the women in my family are very strong and they like to do things on their own. And they're just super independent, and I feel like that's exactly where I got it from. So for example, moving to LA for the first time, it'll be 4 years in September. I realized, am I allowed to swear on this? Holy shit. Like, you really have to do things for yourself if you want things done. And I remember I ran out of toilet paper, for example. This is just a small fraction of independency. And I was like, damn, I really can't wipe my ass unless I walk across the street to get some fucking toilet paper. And so it has a lot to do with just like learning, like, wow, I'm living on my own. Like, I can't just call my parents like, Mom, can you grab me some toilet paper? Dad, can you like bring this on your way home?
I've learned everything from them, from how to cook, to just believe in myself, to take risks. Making the headline, for example, was a risk. So they taught me to just be sure to just do it, like Nike, really. So like I remember when I created the headline, I was on the phone with my mom just venting, like working at this job that I didn't really care too much about. And then I was just like, I just want to do what I want to do. I don't know how to start. She was like, why are you overthinking it? Just do it. When I was in college, I was majoring in psychology. She was like, why are you majoring in psychology? Just tell me. I was like, I don't know, it just sounds right? She was like, no. I mean, you trying to be a detective? What are you trying to do with this degree? I was like, I don't know. She was like, what are you passionate about? And I was like, well, I like talking to people. I like writing. She was like, okay, you can get a degree in that, right? I was like, stop playing. For real? She was like, yeah, don't do something because it sounds right. Do something because it feels right. And that stuck with me ever since then. So with me doing the headline, it felt right in my spirit. Like after I had that conversation with her about making it, I don't even know how. It's like God said, Ty, the name will be the headline. And I was in my car like, okay.
My dad is a go-getter. Like my dad works extremely hard. He's a thinker. He's a visionary. He's all about, making sure that his family has what they need. So I've taken that from him. And then as far as my mother, she's just loving and caring, and everything she does is out of love. When she walks in the room, I believe her character just brightens the room. So as you get older, you don't realize like, I act like my mom or I do things like my dad. So I do feel like their individual characters and personalities, I have a lot of that. And they're both just amazing individuals, to be honest. And I'm not just saying that because my parents, but I look at them and I really look at for who they are, and in the heart, they are truly amazing individuals. So I would like to think that I am as well.
We never ever had like a dull moment, or I'm bored, or something like that. There was always something for us to do, and she was just always creative in thinking of ways to, I guess, just allow us to have a good time and to just have fun. Like if we were riding bikes or even making something at home. Like I said, she was working, but when I look back, I'm like, man, you had a lot of time. But when I think of, she didn't have a lot of time, but she made that space for us to, I'm sorry. She made that space for us to be able to still spend time with her, to be able to bake at home with her. We made, and even now, my husband always jokes to me about, you want everything homemade. You want everything homemade. And, because it's the best thing ever, the ingredients for you. And just the time and the passion that you put into something, making it, by yourself and from scratch. And she always did that with us.
I remember there was this moment in time where it hit me to just thank my mom for moving us to LA. Speaking to those same feelings, like if it weren't for her strength to get through things and just push, hustle, whatever she had to do, she originally gave up her career for marriage. So it was like starting from scratch, and, she chose to do it at that time, and it was a really pivotal point in my life. And I'm just very grateful for her courage at that time. So a lot of my understanding and my vision for myself for the future it stems from my experience being raised by a single mother.
Something that resonates with me today, especially after the loss of my father, is his footprint in the advocacy for our people. Because when I was growing up, I was very involved in myself, in my art. It was all I knew. And witnessing his advocacy, witnessing his fight for our political freedom. And it didn't stop till even past his death. He fought till the moment he passed, and that stuck with me. And my passion for our people, my passion for our culture, for my belief in our ancestry. Our people have been dispersed, and as generations go on and on, our language is fading because it is a very ancient language. And I hold on to that. I believe in keeping it alive, and I learned that from my household.
I definitely think that the school's kind of principles have stuck with me. It always gave me like a different, I think, experience because I didn't have like the public school experience. I went there in first grade, so, and then graduated high school from there. So my entire grade school upbringing was with a school where I grew with my teachers. It was just a really cool experience to be able to have like a home away from home, a family away from family, and even now I still feel connected to everybody I grew up with, like a community type of setting and less of just like a school.
The headline, let me just see if this domain name is available. And I was scrolling, bought it at a red light. And the rest was history. Like, I just love my mom and my grandma so much because they always push me to just do what I enjoy. Yeah. They never stopped me. They never said anything that I wanted to do was stupid. They always supported me 1,000%. So I love them for that.
But living in a two-home with two parents, it was really, really good for me in a sense of seeing the growth between two individuals. But my parents also had a lot of personal problems, right? So in that, I saw a lot of arguing. So to be honest, I didn't want to get married for years because of that. But I think my parents stayed together because they thought the two parents in one household would be the best for their child, which I'm super appreciative of. But I also think that comes with, you know, you can see the obstacles as a child, and it can either strengthen your relationships or it can do the opposite.
I feel like every situation brings a lesson, but that's what it did for me. Like, you know, I don't want to put love first. I don't want to put family goals before my career. That's just where I'm at right now.
Have you broken any social or cultural norms?
Have I broken any cultural or social norms? I mean, being a Black girl from LA, single family household, going off to college, getting her degree, having a good, what people would consider as a good job, having my own business. I say, yeah.
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 Pretty much broke some.
I feel like I broke some norms. I mean, people all the time would, you know, second guess or doubt you just because you are a woman or just because you are a woman of color. They'll look at you like, oh, she can't do it. But like, you know, making sure I'm about my business at all times, you know, crossing all my T's and dotting all my I's so they don't ever have to be looking down like, oh, she's not doing this because she's a girl and she's Black. And no. I'm making sure I'm handling my business so you don't ever have to look at me crazy.
I had definitely set norms. And I think that once I realized the very first one that I did, I felt so proud. And I was like, ooh, what's the next one? You know? Because statistically, I was born and raised in South Central LA, so I'm supposed to have kids by now. I was never supposed to have gone to college. And I'm supposed to be at a certain financial class level. But to be really honest, the real birth control was my mama in my ear and me not wanting to have the same life that I had. That was really that has been my birth control. I don't want to repeat the same story. But just that little moment really made me start thinking, okay, what else could I do differently? How else can I break another ceiling? How else can I do something different?
No, I'm choosing passion over promotion. I'm trying to, you know, promote my passions and not like just making someone else's dream come true or contributing to a system that I don't wholeheartedly believe in. Specifically Black women, I see a lot of Black women doing great things. I think I'm doing great things. So I think that's normal. I feel like for it to not be normal, you're not worldly, you're not cultured, you're letting those stereotypes take over your idea of Black women. So
I guess stereotypically a Black woman that has like a family, most people think that she's like a single mom raising all these kids without any help, and she's like this strong person that like has 5 jobs and, you know, is doing everything that she can to make sure that her kids have clothes on their backs and food in their mouth and shoes on their feet. But they never think that she has some type of village that's helping raise them. And I definitely have a village. I have a huge village that I don't always get to talk about because we're so much on the go and we're always doing things. And even for me, I am a single mother, but I'm not. Like, and it sounds weird to say that because it's like, oh, so you don't have a husband, but you have a kid? Yeah. But I always have to be like, but my baby daddy is dope as fuck and he's really in her life.
So I'm Persian, I'm full Persian, and my family background, the religion is Muslim. Both parents, we respect the religion, but we don't follow it, nothing. It's more my grandparents. So I feel like me actually being the first generation in the United States and having Persian parents that aren't super strict on you yeah, I broke the norm of growing up as an American.
I would say the number one philosophy that I grew up with was don't be like everybody else, because we weren't like everybody else. And I've kept that as an adult. And so I'm always in a position where I have to kind of break down doors and go against the grain and just make my own lane, because I don't even have the capacity to do what everybody else is doing, number one. And number two, it completely goes against my philosophies. Making sure that I'm always authentic to myself and constantly checking in with myself. Is this actually what I want to do? Or is this what people are expecting me to do because I'm of the millennial generation?
I do see myself breaking a lot of norms actually, especially nowadays. This generation is different than the previous generation. Most of my cousins are married and stay at home with their kids, and they follow, Mexican rituals down to their kids. Me, on the other hand, I'm a single mom, and as well, I work full time. I went to school full time, and just working hard and achieving that on my own. It's kind of has pushed me to breaking norms within my culture.
Definitely, I think the biggest thing for me as a woman just has been pursuing a career, especially a career in something creative that I'm passionate about, because of where my family is from and the lack of opportunity out there. I have the privilege to even say, I don't want to do this job. I want to do something that I love, because they come from a place where that's not even an option. You just need to have a job that puts food on the table and pays the bills. I mean, just even that is something to be grateful for.
I definitely believe I changed some norms, especially within my family, because my family as a Black woman, because I was always raised to, you better keep that job, you better stay in that, you better do this, you better do that. This is right, this is right. Like, I guess to be that working class woman and not really chasing her dreams, just doing what you're supposed to do based off the system. So, and I'm just out here chasing a dream right now. So, I think that's the barrier that I broke down.
Like, I am the norm. Like, what are you talking about? I'm educated, I have a bomb job, I provide for myself, like, I love my friends, I'm kicking it, like, I'm chilling. This is the norm. You know what I mean? I'm tired of us talking about Black women in the sense of like struggle and, single motherhood and yada, yada, yada. Like, the reality of it is that Black women run this shit. Like, that's my norm.
Being Latin, it's like saying you're from the South. I've talked to a lot of people from the South today, and they'll say something like, in the South, you grow up, you get married and you have kids. Like, that's the goal. That is the goal. And so I think being Latina, the goal is you have to always be up and like, you always have to be on point physically. It's never emotionally. It's always physically. It's the outer appearance. If your hair is short, a man's not gonna want you because your hair is short. If you're not wearing something fitted and tight, you're not gonna look good. So I think in that aspect, being married and having kids, me being my age, every Latin woman that I know asks me, don't you wanna get married? Or why don't you do this so you can be a little more feminine so he can like you? So it's more so to say, I don't think I've broken any norms, but I think that I follow more so what I feel.
I broke the mold in my community growing up, and that community to me is my household as well. And I did that by sticking to my passion, fighting through any restrictions I had, and allowing myself to have a voice and knowing and changing my perspective on what a woman should do and how a woman should be. Because the household I grew up in definitely didn't agree with the way I am now. As when I was young, growing up, I became a woman that would not have necessarily come out of that household.
I think for women, we look at each other, or we assume that we are in competition every moment. Being in competition, but then also feeling like we can't bond. Like, those are my two things right there. If you're looking for reasons to not like someone, then the opportunity to really get to know that person and build a bond is out the window. But I think embracing and really knocking down that wall of us being catty and being in competition and feeling like we need to always prove ourselves to each other. Just be yourself. So I really try to push that everywhere I go. And I believe instead of you always speaking on what something should be, it's very important to just be it. And then from being it, people see it, and that's it. It's not rocket science, but I think that it takes more to try to, as women, to try to feel like I need to beat her at something. That's more energy. That's wasted energy. Put that energy in just learning how to coexist and build each other, because we're so much more powerful together. So much more powerful.
Where do you find inspiration and empowerment?
Really just staying true to myself in moments where it would have been so easy to sell myself short out of convenience or to make someone else happy. Moments like that, I'm like, yeah, I didn't take that shit.
Women in history, mostly women of color. There are a few exceptions to that, but mostly women of color. Like, this is probably gonna sound really depressing to some people, but The Color Purple is just one of those movies that's like, first of all, shit could be a lot worse. Second of all, be thankful you were born in 1991 and not 1901. Because, okay, totally different ballgame. And I think that movie reminds me, like, if I don't speak up for myself, if I don't fight for what I know is right for me, I'm gonna be in somebody's trap.
I listened to motivational speakers. I found people that came from cities just like myself that were doing big things. And I was like, ooh, I want to be on stage one day. I want to do that. So it was very scary, and it was a long journey for me to discover like what drives me and what motivates me. But I always kind of had a hunch. I always had a hunch growing up that I wanted more. You know, because I was always home, what saved me from boredom was TV. I watched movies, I watched TV shows, novelas, which was very bad for my subconscious. Latinas get their attitude from other Latinas.
So, as funny or weird as this sounds, I literally have to tell myself, you're Tosh the motherfucking boss, you better get the hell up out of this bed or nothing's gonna work out for you. What motivates me is maybe my personality, because I know that I light up the room. I know that I have a lot of friends and family that look forward to me being in a certain area because of the energy. So I want to be able, maybe it's more for other people, so I'm actually learning to be a little bit selfish, but I think my motivation is to make others proud. But I'm learning that I can't really make others proud unless I make myself proud first. So my motivation is still under construction.
I don't think there's a specific person, but just music for me has always been really key and just the answer to everything. I feel like even subconsciously I could put my playlist on shuffle and I'll find myself hearing songs that are giving me messages to whatever it is that I'm going through in that moment. Yeah, words are always the foundation, I feel. But when you add that rhythm to it, it definitely helps.
What do you see from women in the community?
I think we can do better being real. I think we can do better showing each other, as well as our children, that nothing happens overnight. I think that we try to paint this picture of perfection, and it's what's weighing heavy on our kids and our community. But as women, I think that we have more power than what we recognize. And we set the tone, and we can also set the bar very high.
When it comes to pushing each other, we make sure the job gets done without hating. And then I return it tenfold. So many women that I know, y'all are great. And I make sure that I say it verbally. I make sure that I express it on social media so other people can see it, so they can get that energy as well.
The things that I like that I've been seeing within our community is just pretty much the empowerment between each other. Like, of course, one thing I respect is in the industry, I would say, I was just talking about this with my sisters, like, I will never say anything bad about a black woman, brown woman doing good in the industry. Because number one, it's too hard. It's already hard to get into the industry, being black or brown. So if you got into this industry, I respect it. So really just the empowerment between each other.
In the artist community, I've been very fortunate because I've met a lot of great women. Like women that I've never met in any other facet of my life, like not through school, in any time period or at work. And I say that because I feel like a lot of the women that I've met are sensitive and they're conscious and they have great aspirations, and so I naturally align with that. You know, we see things differently through a bigger picture. We want to be healers, we want to be protectors, and I've noticed that with all the women that I'm meeting as artists, that we want to uplift and change whatever bullshit we went through so nobody else has to. Where women will understand, but that's not the case all the time. And I just feel like that can only happen through systematic change. You know, that's an even bigger conversation. But I think we can at least start with, you know, allowing each other into these spaces, making space for one another, and helping each other just come up in whatever successes that we're doing.
I think we are doing well. I think that we are finally realizing as women in the Black community that we're enough just the way we are. I love how this natural hair movement is coming back. I love how people are going natural, no makeup. I'm not really a fan of the fake booties. I think right now, statistically, Black women are the most educated women in America, maybe the world. And I think that's amazing that this Black girl magic shit is real. Like, we say it all the time. We're like, yes, Black girl magic. But like, those 3 words really mean what we're saying they mean. Like, if you go and you look at a Black woman, all shades, all sizes, all personalities, all types of walks of life, we're all doing some shit that's like really popping. And I think it's super dope, like, that we can all be so raw, so real and authentic. I think authenticity is like it. Like, we are becoming more authentic about our race and our culture, and I love it.
The climate of this country has a way of, just by the day-to-day, the natural climate of what this country was built on has a natural, effortless way of oppressing. Our stance today, where we are as women and where we continue to go, is 100% our choice, and we do it. Nobody's giving us anything to even work with sometimes. We create these movements, and we do what, you know what I'm saying? We are the ones who create our future. We don't have handouts, we don't have anything. Everything is done in our own power. And it's with our determination, and more than anything, it's with our unity today.
It's not always a competition, or it's not always about hating each other within it. You know, like, if we found a way to unify, like, we would be so powerful as a people. even with the protests, like, see how that moved around. After 1 week of people getting arrested, they completely passed the law and said people can rightfully protest peacefully without you guys interrupting them. Like, that's power. 20,000 people together with a common goal. And like, if we could do that, you know, unstoppable.
What would you tell your younger self?
Be an entrepreneur, don't get a degree, and just don't quit.
That it's okay to be yourself. I think that when I was in that age, because that's like second grade going into middle school, right? I think during that time, we're all seeking to find something. I would say find who we are, but we don't really even know what that means at that age. But I think for me, because I can be bubbly, I think some people, but now when I look back, some people really thought that that was not me. And I would try to like brush away from that because I would hear people say like, is she really that nice? Is she really, you know? So I was afraid of being who I was and really just like I naturally just love people. And I really draw to women and young girls. Like I really like, I feel like we're amazing, okay? Then when I moved to Riverside, I was bullied, okay? Like I'm talking about on the bus, a group of girls trying to put gum in my hair, talking about me. It was crazy. And again, I'm the only child, we're moving to a whole new city. It never got physical, but people don't realize your words and the things that you do to people, they stick with them. So I would say throughout that whole time, I just, you know, I believe that you need to be secure with who you are. So I would just say, be yourself, speak up for yourself. You don't have to be crazy with it, but speak up for yourself and know that even when someone makes you feel as if you being you is not enough or it's too much, you still show up.
What I would tell a younger Ariana is do stuff that makes you happy. Live for yourself. Don't do it because it's what you think other people say you should do. Or don't make yourself uncomfortable to make everybody else comfortable. That's what I would tell her. Because there's a lot of decisions I've made that steer my life in different ways based off other people's, you know, ideas of what I need to be doing. And made myself uncomfortable just to make other people comfortable. You know? That sucks.
I would just tell myself to hold on and to see things through, not to overthink whatever's happening right now because it's not going to matter years down the line. To recognize my gifts, to see how much potential and talent you have and how much you have to offer people, how good of a person you are, even if nobody around you is telling you or encouraging you, and to just keep pushing because things are confusing now, but you'll see why it's all happening later on.
But honestly, I wouldn't change anything. I feel like everything that I did from a little girl to now had its purpose. Even up to moving back and forth, I know that was challenging. I mean, people wouldn't consider it as challenging. And I'm gonna go ahead and just lay it all out there. So the reason why I moved, I'm already getting sad. Sorry. Okay, so the reason why I moved when I was 4 to Palmdale was because I was molested by my dad. And if it wasn't for my mom and my grandma, I honestly don't think that I would be as mentally strong as I am today. So 7, 11-year-old Ty would always try to just do something to forget, whether it was dance class or being in band, just constantly doing something with my craft, doing something different. And I'm grateful that we moved back to LA, mainly because I would probably have been lost if I stayed in Palmdale. A lot of my friends that I grew up with ended up pregnant, doing anything of that nature. So I'm just grateful that younger me was able to kind of go through what I went through, just to test my mental strength, to know like, okay, you can do whatever you need to do to fight whatever demons you're facing.
Yeah, what I would tell myself is to just enjoy and have fun and do what I wanted to do instead of asking for permission or advocate a little bit more for myself.
I would tell her to try to hold on to her innocence as much as possible. I would tell her to spend more time reading and writing and drawing instead of worrying about adult shit that she cannot change and she cannot influence.
Younger Ty was strong. What was super helpful, I would say, is therapy. And I didn't necessarily get that help until 2 years ago. Just actually being able to talk about it out loud was something that helped me a lot. And like, I went through a rough patch. I'm not even gonna say that everything has been peaches and cream and rainbows and all that stuff, because it has been hard. But because of therapy, it has helped me to just be like, okay, this is what it is. Like, don't let that define you. Don't let that situation stop you from being successful or achieving your goals. Yes, this happened. Yes, you're raised in a single family household. Yes, you're the only child, but that doesn't mean you can't be social and you can't be happy.
Well, I think one of the biggest mistakes I kind of made when I was young was just like looking for love in all the wrong places. And that kind of caused me to just get involved with guys what I shouldn't have, like at an early age, at like 12. I would tell the younger me to relax. You know, like, you don't need validation. You don't need everything right now. You don't need anything outside of yourself to feel complete, to feel accepted, to feel loved. Like, you can just thrive as you are and everybody else will figure it out. So I would just tell my younger self to relax. Everything is good, you're good. And to just have fun. Don't try to grow up too fast. Just like have fun. Keep going to the grocery store with your aunt, because you're gonna have to go to the grocery store for yourself one day and you're gonna hate it.
For one, I would definitely put a lot of emphasis on being patient. I'm still learning patience. I feel like I'm really hard on myself. And it comes back to what I said about just slowing down, you know, talking to myself even, taking control of the language that I use in my head. Simple as that. Just slowing down and being more gentle to your actual journey, you know, if that makes sense. Like being more kind to yourself, more forgiving. Understand that you weren't born perfect. And our lives are about change and growth and coming to a point of understanding. You're not going to have it all together.
Stay spicy. I think somewhere in between, I think after 13, like I said, I had someone in my life that was really hammering like rules and like restriction, and it eventually wore down on me. And I didn't realize that until I went to college, and people were like, I had professors that were like, you're so reserved. And that was never an adjective for me. No one ever described me as reserved and to myself and a lady and polite. And I don't know, I've always been a free spirit. I always spoke my mind. And even have like family members would tell me like, I remember when I met you when you were 5, you told me off. Or like, or you just were blunt and asked me questions like you were a grown up. And I was like, what happened to that? And so I would say, don't lose who you are. Stay true to who you are. Keep meditating. Keep like trusting your intuition, and just don't let other people shave you down and put you in a box that doesn't belong to you.
I would tell myself, don't be afraid to find your voice in music first. I would tell myself to throw everything I've learned about women in the garbage. And I would tell myself to choose women, choose the voice of women when in doubt. I would tell myself to observe my dad more.
Yeah, I guess to just release the guilt and the shame, and that, you know, it's not my fault how people looked at me. It perceived me just because of how I looked, you know, or what neighborhood I was coming from, that I wasn't smart enough, that I was bad, that I was, not good enough. And so I guess I would tell myself to just live and be relieved of that shame and guilt, because, you know, you're wonderful how you are. And like Zora Neale Hurston said, she's my favorite writer, of just how could anyone deny themselves the pleasure, you know, of my company? Like, it's beyond me, you know, and I feel that for my younger self, of just who cares? Like, you know, you want to think this about me, keep on living, like, unapologetically.
So cliche, but live your best fucking life. Like, I think when we're younger, we think we have time. And time is nowhere near the essence. Like, any time can be your time to go. And it's like, I want to be able to lay on my deathbed and say, I lived my fucking life and I'm good. I don't want anybody else to be like, yo, you had a great life. No, I might have looked like I had a great life, but did I really feel like I had that great life? And I think that's it. Like, go travel the world. You want to go get a 5th degree, go get a 5th degree. You want to have 12 kids, go have 12 kids. You know, like, do what you want to do that's going to make you happy, because at the end of the day, you came into this world by yourself, you're going to leave by yourself. But what you did while you were here, that's all determined by the choices that you decide to make. And you might make some fucked up choices, but if you know how to, like, bounce back from those choices and make those choices from negative into positive, you lived your best life.
Pros and cons of social media.
Like, I love social media. It's where you go for your news. You go to Twitter, you find out everything first. It's instant, it's at your hands. You don't need to get a newspaper anymore. You don't need to do anything like that. You don't need to turn on your TV. Like, I enjoy social media because it's just hands-on, easy access.
I think social media is really a blessing. The internet is a blessing. Like, and just like anything, there's a light and a dark side. So you can choose to take advantage of the opportunity that technology is giving you right now, or you can choose to be a victim of it. Yes, all of that is there, but you can control that. You can control how you take in social media, right? So I would encourage people to, like, realize that there is opportunities for you to get paid. Like, what are we talking about? There's opportunities for you to get paid. There's opportunities for you to learn stuff that they're not teaching you in school, for you to get ahead in your education in life. Like, there's just so much opportunity.
They can grow faster. People can grow faster. People can learn faster. The learning curve is definitely much better now.
You never know how people are going to perceive you, which could be good or bad. But from that, I think social media is the future. You know, we're naturally social people, so we want to at least have a way of informing one another what's going on, because there's too many things happening to just be like, let me just completely not have it and just be out of touch. You're gonna miss a lot.
So I think it's like kind of brought the world in a little bit, and you can see what's happening. And even in a good sense, it's good and bad. You can see what's happening, what's really happening in certain places. So I love that in other countries, they've really taken on this Black Lives Matter protest in other places because they see what's happening here.
As for the pros, I feel like it's a lot of pros. I'm not against social media because there's so many benefits in which I've been able to see about people, you know, just drawing certain awareness to things like that, to social issues, which I'm passionate about, and awareness to even, you know, your friends and family that may need help, and, you know, you may not be able to see or talk to them every day and things like that. So you don't know I don't know what's going on with my little cousin or whatever, but she might just share all of a sudden that she broke her ankle on there. And I didn't call her every day to see, you know, what happened, but she shared that, you know, she broke her ankle, she's in the hospital, and, you know, but she is doing well. And it's like, oh, I got to see that happened to her, but then I also got to see that, okay, she's okay and everything, and even get to call and check up on her, versus, you know, sometimes without it, and even before, a lot of things, you know, probably happen, like with our grandparents and even our parents' time and us, that you waited weeks to hear about. And then that's why you had to sit over your grandmother's house for 2 hours listening to the stories that she would tell, because you've missed a whole span of what had happened. You know, when Johnny came over, or your Uncle George and stuff like that, and, you know, he hurt his hip when he fell down and whatever, you know, just things like that. You miss all of that, and it takes a long time to catch up. You really need to sit down and have about 4 or 5 teas, you know?
But then again, I think social media has also helped us, a lot of people open their eyes to looking at other people's perspectives, not just them. You know, growing up and thinking that something's supposed to be the way it should be just because of your surroundings. That's how you grow up, you know, it's just, that's your social norm, you know. But then I think social media allows you to see it from different people, not only from within your culture, different cultures, different generation, a different age.
I think the pros are fast messaging. So because we've kind of seen that every piece of news or everything that's been reported in the article isn't always fact-checked or isn't always accurate, I think a lot of the times, you know, this could be a pro and a con, that things go around so fast on social media. It might ignite the spark for people to now go and do their own research, or it may just make people believe, you know, a false narrative. But I do love that it puts it in the forefront of everyone. It's not like people are reading the paper every day anymore, like they used to back in the day or anything like that. So to have, like, I guess, another world that's always happening, and there's always current events happening there, it kind of creates that, I guess, synergy to know what's going on in the world without having to be connected in like a classical type of way or a traditional way. But I think the biggest con is just the fact that it does create that world. So a lot of people aren't necessarily paying attention to the world that we live in anymore because social media has been such a big factor in day-to-day life.
I think I try to find pages that show the good and the bad. And I also try to be that person on social media that shows the good and the bad. When it's done like that in a transparent way, it lets people know that we're all still human and that social media actually doesn't change life. It just gives us an opportunity to share our lives with each other. And it's our responsibility, I think, to show it in an ethical way.
How is it that social media makes somebody look like they're something better than what they are, and they don't even work for what they are? Like, I need people to want to work for what they are again. And I think that's what social media is taking away from us.
Pressure of living up to the standards of this surreal life that everyone creates, you know? You do have the filters, you do have, you know, the Photoshop, you do have even just people setting up things to, you know, make it look presentable. And so I guess that would be a con, because sometimes people, if you can't discern like what is reality and what isn't, people are like, oh, they just look nice all the time. Her skin is so flawless. Oh, see, and you know, even me being a mom, you know, I'm in all these little mommy blogs and stuff like that. I'm not in it, actually. I'm like a silent reader. But looking at them, and they'll, you know, say things of like, oh, so-and-so, you know, she's just always doing this with her kid, and, you know, I would love to, you know, be able to have time to look pretty and, you know, be with my kid, but unfortunately I have, I don't know, sweet potato stain on my shirt, and my hair is a mess and things like that. And that's what normally, what reality would be like. But I mean, I could take a picture and it looks like this, you know, and I could crop it very nice, but then I have a baby on my boob and you didn't see that part.
It's good, and then too much of it is bad. Too much of anything is bad. So I think taking some time to be off of it and kind of really getting to know what you like, what you don't like, putting it away or not having it by your bed, I've heard really works, and I've tried it and it does work. It's not the first thing that I think about when I get out of bed.
You have a plan to the reason of why you're doing what you're doing, then it makes sense. But if you have no plan behind chasing this goal, then I would say rethink it, re-strategize, replan, because that's not the right way to handle it. But pertaining to social media and clout chasing, I guess they'll call it, because you're really not living that lifestyle and you're putting yourself again in danger, making yourself broke because you're trying to, you know, keep up to date with all these trends on the Instagram and stuff. I would say that's for the birds. That's weak. Be yourself regardless of anything, and don't sacrifice your state of mind or state of living to keep up with the standards of social media.
Honestly, if you need a break from social media, you need a break. Whether it's too much, too heavy, do you feel yourself like only posting because you know you'll get thirst likes? Don't do it. You want to change your body because you know certain people aren't looking at you, but they'll look at you if you had certain things, or walk away. That's when it gets too much, and that's when it's not really used, and I think in the right way.
It has allowed a lot of young people to become young entrepreneurs. It's allowed young people to enter professional world in a way that the older generation is new to, like they have no idea to, and they need us. So I feel like it provided a lot of doors for us, but also very negative, because whatever happened to you 10 years ago is going to come up on the internet.
You know, there's a lot of negative stuff out there that can definitely mess with your mental, because it's just there. All you gotta do is scroll, and that's it, that's all. It can be negative because you can become numb to things. So these kids today, like, I can only imagine how stone cold they are mentally, because they've seen it all. And their parents a lot of times don't even know what they're even witnessing. All you have to do is type in a hashtag and you're exposed to all of it. And that's how easy it is for these kids.
I would like the new generation coming up to change the conversation around social media and not give it so much power over your emotions, but take the power from it to elevate yourself on, you know, whether that's a business level or just a way to seek information or a way to connect with other people, whatever. But yeah, I think that this generation should use the technology that they have to their advantage.
Talk about the 2020 impact.
As much as I love my ally friends calling, texting, checking up on me, it was like a double-edged sword. It was like, thank you for checking up on me, but also like, it's not like you're gonna be checking up on me one every day. If this has been happening, kind of a thing, you haven't been, now you're just aware of it.
It's affected me as a Black woman just by, you know, already the injustices that happen in each area, you know, from your career, you know, to all the way stemming to police brutality and things like that. You know, not many people realize all the ranges that these things can be thrown at you and that they happen. And even people now with like all the rallies and outcries over our Black men that have been killed, you know, as for women, our voices are put behind. Not even the stories you know can really search for or that people really know about. Even so, if someone was to, people now trying to be educated about like what can I do to help, you know, Black people in America, you know, they're thinking of the men's side, they're thinking of the men's story, and they're thinking, yeah, just of what they've heard, because that's really what you hear at the forefront of it, that this Black man has been killed because of this and this and that, not even realizing that this Black woman was also killed in the same way.
I think the impact is primarily emotional. It's hard to see like people of color in situations that are compromising that have really nothing to do with our day-to-day lives in this country. It's also just traumatizing because every time I see someone, honestly, I haven't seen the George Floyd video. I refuse to watch it because I'm just traumatized. I'm tired of seeing Black men get killed and people just watch. And it's kind of removed the humanity from us as a people because we're desensitized. We always see this, you know, happening. There's always a new hashtag, a new name. And I think that it makes us, in a sense, a little more like docile about it. You know, oh, well, this just kind of happens. And so, yeah, people have protested, but I don't think I've seen one video yet of someone recording who actually went as a group and said, we're gonna attack these cops because we are all human here and you can't kill this person.
But I think there's been a lot more people rallying together, which is the positive of it. And I think it's like bringing out the races, which, I mean, it's better to see them in the face than them to be behind their cloaked sheets, so.
Seeing from my own experiences of, like I said, different injustices all the way from when I was young, it definitely affects the way that, you know, I move forward with my daughter, because there were some things even then that I didn't think of, because, you know, as a little kid, you don't think of like, oh, I'm Black, or oh, I'm a woman, or any of these things that might separate you or cause people to look at you differently. You just think you're a kid. You think you're like any other kid, you know. I can do exactly what they do.
So our school was right across from German Village in downtown Columbus, and basically when we were younger, we used to have bomb threats. They wanted us out of that school. They're like, we don't want Black people, let alone Black kids, in our area every day, you know? And so for years, I know that the Council of Elders that got together and created Afrocentric fought to keep this school open. They didn't want it to be a public school and they didn't want it to be there, period. And so recently, maybe in the past 5 years, Children's Hospital bought the land that my school used to be on, and they tore the school down and rebuilt a new school on the east side of Columbus where they had just recently torn down old project housing. So, yeah, so the new Afrocentric is on top of the old projects. And there's still a lot of the old teachers there. So I'm hoping that that keeps the synergy, but driving past where the old school used to be, you would never know. They completely, and even worse, they made it a parking lot for Children's Hospital.
There was a lady who came in to do like a presentation about tobacco. And so she's showing us this little tobacco mouth. It had like a little rubber tongue in it, and you know, it just shows how your teeth and everything decays when you smoke. And so she passes around the whole class and everything. Everybody's playing with it, this, you know, I get it, pass it around. And I'm not even like towards the end. Maybe if I was towards the end, you'd be like, this last person, whatever. I'm like 4 students away from whoever had it last. It went all around the class. But one day I get called, well, that same day, it was after the presentation. And they call me into the office and they say, Erica, you need to come with us into the office. And I'm like, okay. And I get into the office and the principal, he's like, well, it was a lady, the principal. She's like, okay, so we see that you've done damage to one of the tobacco mouths. And they said this tobacco mouth was, I don't know, maybe $1,000 or something like that. They're like, you see that you've done damage to this tobacco mouth. And I'm like, what damage did I do? Or, you know, and they're like, yeah, you see these teeth marks? These teeth marks, you pressed in the little rubber tongue with, you know, with the teeth of the mouth. And I'm just like, I didn't. I mean, it opens and closes. Everybody was doing that. And they're like, yeah, well, I don't even remember but somehow I'm responsible for this, even though everyone in the class played with it. And so she was like, yeah, so this is a serious and very big deal. And, you know, I'm with just her in the class and I'm waiting there. And the next thing you know, I mean, I was probably in there maybe like just 10 minutes by myself or something after she leaves out and she comes back with a police officer. Yeah. And it's like, I'm not even like thinking of this until I'm older. And I'm like, you know, and I was like telling my mom, like, yeah, mommy, you know. And so she came in with a police officer. And I remember, you know, the police officer was talking to me. It wasn't like, oh, he's like, oh, you know how they approach kids at times, like, hey, little girl, how are you? It wasn't anything like that. I'm in, what was it? I was in 5th grade, either fifth or 6th grade. And then the office, now I'm scared, you know, because this is, like I said, he wasn't very nice or, you know, and he was like, you know, we can take you to jail for this. Yeah, and so I was like, I'm scared. And I said, which this breaks my heart even now because I can't imagine somebody saying this to my child, you know? And that's why I might have to homeschool her. But somebody saying this to my child, I said, can I call my mom? And he said, no. They said, no, they did not let me call my mom. And so you have, you know, a very, a child who is not mature enough to even see what's going on or even, I guess, think that they have the authority at that moment to just leave and get up and walk out or something like that. And to know that, you know, I knew at the time I felt bad about it and what they're accusing me of, but I didn't even think at the time I have rights, you know? You don't even think about that. And so that's one of the things that I would be telling my daughter, like, you do have rights, you know? In any situation that you feel uncomfortable in or someone's making, and you can call me at any time. And you don't have to speak or, you know, even be in a situation like that of people who are supposed to be authoritative figures.
I think that as Black people, we've always had to be very conscious of what we pass along. And I think that, you know, one huge thing is that there always has to be a conversation. Once I have a family, a Black, you know, son and a Black daughter, I'm gonna have to explain to them the climate that we live in. And unfortunately, you know, it's preventative measures. Don't look too menacing. Don't, you know, step the wrong way. Listen to authority when you hear them telling you to do things. And it's not that it has to be that simple, but, you know, you want to save yourself and your family. And so you have to almost be that person to say, if we can't fix it now, then I'm just going to make sure that when my son comes across a cop, he knows that he needs to speak properly and to address him respectfully. Or, you know, when my daughter is out walking around or out with her friends, I just have to pray that, you know, there's going to be somebody that's smart enough to say, hey, don't mess with these little black girls, or that she's and her friends are smart enough to buddy together so that no one snatches them. But yeah, I mean, I just think it's going to be a hard conversation to have, but I will have to have that conversation, unfortunately.
As a parent, you know, those were somebody, like those people, George Floyd, you know, Breonna, that was someone's baby. They were babies, and, you know, and they always go back to the families, or, you know, and you hear them speak about things, and it's like no one is really even just thinking about, like, okay, yeah, they were attached to somebody in their family, but that was somebody's child that they nursed, that they held, that they took. Just as I was holding Aria and looking into her eyes as her protector and, you know, her keeper, and letting her know that everything's okay because she's with me and I'm gonna protect her, all these things. Those people, their moms did the same thing. Their fathers did the same thing to those people. And we look at them now like, oh, they're adults, you know, it happened, they're strong, you know, but you can even go to little kids like Tamir Rice and things like that. It's just, I don't know what I would do. You know, like, this is my baby, and to see her go out into the world, and I don't know, someone calls the police on her for something stupid, and I get a call and have to answer that call that my baby's been shot down or I don't know, assaulted, choked, strangled, whatever, that hurts. People always, you know, like to play devil's advocate and say, well, if he had you know, raised his hands, or what if he had not resisted, or she had and I need to be better too about also using, you know, my she pronouns, because, yeah, that it's also in that line of just making our voices heard. We always use he. So if she had have did this, if she had have not talked back, if she had have not, maybe that wouldn't have happened. We don't even know, because you guys didn't even give it a chance.
Out of our three kindergarten teachers, my teacher was probably the most mellow, but the other two white women that were teachers were highly racist. And there were less than 10 black kids out of all three kindergarten classes. It was a majority white school at the time. And I think that the black parents, so my mom went to high school with a few of the parents of the children that I was in kindergarten with. And so there were like a few black parents that kind of got together and were like, hey, it's only a few of us. Have you noticed anything funny? You know, they would just talk all the time. And they started realizing that there were stories that sounded very similar that were coming from all of the black kids. You know, we would come home and tell our parents about our experiences. And so they would take turns leaving, you know, from work in the middle of the day, and they would go sit outside in the hallway just incognito to see what's going on in these classrooms. Our three classes would get together for, like, you know, activities and holiday type of stuff. And several times other parents, as well as my mom, caught them, you know, just doing things where they were singling out black children in particular in their classes. And there was one thing in particular I remember, Halloween. As you know, every kid's dream is candy. And so we had, like, we couldn't make pumpkins because we were in kindergarten. So we did carve the pumpkins. We did bricks and we painted them orange, and then we got to paint like a little, you know, face on it. And after that we had like snacks and, you know, cookies, treats, and all that kind of stuff. And everything that we did, every activity, they made all the black kids wait until last. I remember this. Like, we made mud pies, and I remember this very clearly, like with the chocolate pudding and then the Oreo cookie crumbles and the gummy worms on top. And we had a long line because it's three classes of kindergartners, probably 20 or 30 students in each class. And there were probably 5 or 6 of us. They made us get in the back of the line. We were the last ones in the line. So when we got to the front, like, all the white kids got like 5 gummy worms in their mud pies, and we got like 1 each. And there were just little things where it was just like, why would you treat children that way, you know? And so the parents had been gathering notes. They had been, you know, writing down dates, occurrences, things they noticed. They went to the principal eventually after they had kind of compiled all this stuff to say, hey, these kindergarten teachers, you know, they're treating our students unfairly, or our kids unfairly. And the principal basically did a Donald Trump and was like, these are very fine teachers. And they were like, no, we've recorded things that they've done that we've witnessed ourselves. It's not like we've heard or our kids just told us, like, we've witnessed these things. And she was like, no, I can guarantee you they wouldn't do anything like that. And so there was kind of a runaround, and I think at some point she probably told all, you know, the parents that had decided. I think there were 3 of them that got together and went and met with her. But she basically told them to pull their kids out if they had a problem. Yeah. And so around that time, my mom heard about Afrocentric. It was the first year that it was going to be starting the next year. And she was like, I don't like this situation. I'm pulling my daughter out. I'm going to put her with some students that, you know, are like her. And I think, I want to say maybe a few months after she pulled me out, that principal got fired.
How do you incorporate self-care?
Self-care was not a priority. It was not even in existence. I wasn't aware of self-care up until 23, until I was the age of 23, which is when I got into the multi-level marketing world. And they talked about self-development. Even when I was in school and I was learning sociology, it didn't register self-care. But self-care is mega important because it's kind of like when people say, oh, I want to give, I'm such a giver, I want to help out the world, I want to help out so many people, I'm so good at helping kids, I'm so good at helping, you know, adults or the elderly. But it's like, how can you give when you haven't given yourself? How can you pour from an empty cup? So you function from your vessel. So if you don't give it the proper care, are you really giving your best self to these people that you're giving to? Are you really giving your best self to your work, to your product, to your production, to your results? Or could you be getting better if you took care of your vessel? And taking care of your vessel is in the physical form, in the spiritual form, and in the mental form. No matter what you believe in, whether you believe in God or not, like, it's the mind, body, and spirit. It really is. And so learning to take self-care, learning that there is generational trauma that we carry through our spirit, and taking those steps and taking those measures, and learn to take away the stigma from going to therapy because you tell someone, like, hey, you know, probably you should go to counseling or seek therapy. People are like, I'm not crazy. It's like, no, it's not about being crazy. It's about making sure that your mental health is okay. It's about making sure that when someone said something to you and you took it offensively and you held that in, how did that cause you to function now?
Definitely working out, self-care, drinking a lot of water. I'm very spiritual, so I like to burn sage in my house. I like to have my crystals. I like to have like my evil eyes all around the house. So I feel like that, like, cleansing of my energy, my spirit, my space, has a lot to do with that.
God. I have to tap in with him every day. And I have to tap in with him probably about 15 to 20, 30, 40, 50 times a day. And sometimes it's out loud. At times it's reading a book. I have daily devotions that I read from every day. Sometimes it's going into deep prayer. Sometimes it's fasting, whatever I feel my spirit needs. Being a mother, being a daughter, being a cousin, being a niece, like there's just always something going on. Being an entrepreneur, business owner, having a nonprofit, all these things have their own obstacles every day, right? And so one thing shouldn't dictate how you deal with other things. So you have to often check yourself. So just because I'm upset about my results over here, I can't take that into motherhood, right? Just because I didn't get what I want from a business deal, I can't go to the next business deal and give that same energy. So for me, I have to constantly check in with God and say, okay, God, help me get back to square one, because this is something totally different, right? And I can't take that energy from here to there.
I incorporate, I do a lot of self-care. I should do maybe a little less self-care and work a little harder maybe. I do self-care by eating what I want sometimes. I know that sounds basic, but body image, weight, so on and so forth is so heavy sometimes that I try not to overthink it. Self-care is me disciplining myself, demanding I work out, demanding I pray, and having a moment with my God. And no matter how difficult it is, because it is not easy. It is not easy to address my shortcomings and dissect why I'm detached some days from who I am, or dissect why I make the choices to speak the way I do about myself or down myself about something. For me, as a person who was single until I was 26 and didn't have a relationship and didn't have an intimate life, self-care for me right now is enjoying my relationship. Self-care is closing doors that allow for healthy relationships.
I love to cook. I love to water my plants. I love to listen to music on all the way up loud. I like to watch church on YouTube. I like to listen to podcasts. I like to buy things off Amazon. I like to just do all these things that aren't really that cool, but they keep me in a state of maintenance, if you will. So I know that if I don't go to the grocery store, I'm not gonna cook. And if I don't cook, I'm gonna start eating out. And then I'm gonna get pissed at myself because I'm spending money eating out, and I'm getting fat because I'm eating fried chicken and mashed potatoes and cheeseburgers and whatever. And then I'm gonna get upset because I did that, I didn't make the right decision. And then my body is gonna start to react to all of that, and it's gonna be tired, and I'm not gonna be productive. And it just, then you see, we just go down.
I need to do what I have to do to get out of the situation. You know, I'm gonna do what I have to do, whatever it takes. Whether if I have to personally go somewhere, do something, say something, cut someone out of my life, something. I have to do it, even though it could be hard. Definitely, it could be hard. It is hard. But not only that, but I also, I like to work out, read, have positive relationships around me. All of that helps you.
I gotta make sure that I stay true to me. If I don't stay true to myself, I feel so uncomfortable. And something about me is that I cannot hide my emotions. I can't hide my facial expressions. If you know, you're gonna know if I'm uncomfortable. And I don't know if that's just a Gemini thing or what it is, but I can't, if Ty's not happy, it's just not gonna work. It's just not gonna work. I wear this ring every day, and it has a cross on it, my name, and a heart, and it means God first, I'm second, love others. That's what I live by.
What are some gems for the younger generation?
I think it's important for the younger generation to realize that they have allies in their peers. I think the younger generation should receive social media as a tool and be able to discern what it means to witness stuff that is unhealthy and reject what is unhealthy. And just because by by simply trusting what doesn't sit well in their spirit, trusting who they are. Doesn't matter how young they are. I think the younger generation should trust that if something doesn't resonate with them, if something feels like it's harming them, if something doesn't let them sleep at night, reject that. Trust your instincts. I think they need to learn that younger. I think I needed to learn it younger.
I just want them to make sure that they walk in their purpose and don't fall into the stereotype, and to stay strong in all that they do, and don't be afraid to be outspoken, because so many people will want to shut you up. Don't allow it to happen. Speak your mind, but speak intelligently. Get your education. It's very important, because these jobs do not care if you don't have it a lot of times. And if you don't want to work a regular 9 to 5, that's perfectly fine. But make sure that you are doing something that you're passionate about. It's a lot of pressure when you have someone younger looking up to you, because you don't want to mess up ever. As soon as they see you do something, they're like, wait, what? Don't look at the negative things I'm doing and be judgmental. Do it as like, okay, I see what she did. She did a hiccup, but let me learn from this and do something different.
So I could still say I take pressure well, but it's not easy. You know, I feel like on IG and everything, people want to make being an entrepreneur look like it's easy, but it's not. And it's not for everybody, and that's okay. But if you can't get up and go to work for yourself every day and invest that money into your dreams, you better find some other way. That's how I look at it.
But like you have to get business smart. Being a broke artist is not new. People have been broke artists since the Romans were in power. So you gotta hustle, but learn how businesses work and how you can benefit from, you know, the gig economy.
So I believe in work ethic, and I think everybody should start off with a fucked up job. All young kids, because number one, you gotta learn how to push through when you don't wanna do something. And if you don't get taught that at a very young age, that's gonna kill them later in life. And it's harder to rewire your brain and reprogram yourself than to start setting your foundation correctly when you start off.
Well, something that I think I've learned in my own journey that I think is just universal for everybody is you can't do anything until you know yourself first. And the reason why I say that is because unfortunately there's no step-by-step formula in terms of transitioning from your 9 to 5 to being a full-time artist. Some people quit one day and make it work and are able to become successful. For some people, they kind of do both until their art takes off and then they let their job go. So I think that the only way you're going to be able to know in which way to move is by trusting your gut and your instinct. But if you know who you are and what you want, where you're going, you have a rational plan as to how you want to get there, then you should be able to, through just that sense of judgment, determine what moves to make. Because it's a chess game, you know? So I hate when people want to just say, quit your job and do an artist because you don't really want it. You must not really be hungry for it. And that's not true, because nobody wants to be broke. You know, and especially as women, we don't have the luxury of couch surfing. We have to be careful. We have to take care of ourselves. We can't just go to anybody's house and just spend the night there, because unfortunately it's a sad reality that, you know, there could be somebody that might try and take advantage of you. I think about that all the time, and that's not something that I feel like any male artist could really think about. I see that all the time. You know, there's people that are living out of their backpack, and that's great, but as a woman I have to look at it from a different angle. It's not just, am I okay with being homeless? It's like, I might also be violated in that process, and I don't want to put myself in a dangerous situation.
I think it's important to follow your heart. I'm not going to pressure my daughter to go to college. I'm not going to pressure my daughter to, now she has to finish high school, that's non-negotiable. But sorry, when it comes to her doing what it is that she needs to do. I think we live in a world now that it's really showing the creativity of people, right? I think everyone has their own role that they play in this lifetime. Everyone has a piece that fits in the puzzle. And so if you're going to be a janitor, you be the best janitor that you know how to be, right? If you're going to go to school and you're going to get a degree, do whatever you need to do for that. But I don't think that there's a right and a wrong. I think what's happening is the glamour side of things are just outshining, right? So with that, kids are thinking that that's an easier route, which is not. It's not easy at all. Anything that you're trying to accomplish, you're going to come against a lot of roadblocks, right?
Think critically, do your research, question everything.
It would be to slow down, be present, literally just take in each and every moment, whether it was good or bad, because even the experiences that I'm sharing now, you may have something that could help someone later, you know? And so you want to be able to remember it to share that story, and which brings me to my next thing of sharing with the younger generation is to spend time with your grandparents, cook with them, learn their recipes, sharing them with their stories, learn who they were before your parents were even thought of. They had a whole life before you.
So for my family, because I am not the eldest cousin, but I am the very first one to even have a degree under my belt, a bachelor's degree. So at a very young age, I didn't really understand the importance of education. There are certain limiting beliefs subconsciously that need to be taken care of, and our community don't really focus on that. They don't see that as an importance. So if I do the work, if I go and I get the results, if I go chase after one thing, I can be that example for more young girls that come from South LA. You know, like I mentioned, we're a product of our environment, so we need representation. We need people that look like me so that these little young girls can relate to. So I feel like it's my duty. It's like my life's purpose to just continue to work and put my hands on different things so that whenever I do talk to someone, I can tell them, what do you mean you can't do it? I did it. What's your excuse? There is no excuse.
What imprint would you like to leave behind?
I want to be known as that beastly ass woman that happened to have sickle cell. And everything I do, I always feel like I have to give a shout out to sickle cell, like it's the homie that's been there since day one, because it has. Like since the sperm met the egg, type of old, you know? So, I feel like the more I can tell people my story and what I've experienced and what I've gone through and what other sickle cell warriors have gone through, it will help with the awareness and getting rid of those stigmas and, oh, you don't look sick, and all those really inappropriate comments that people say about people with sickle cell. Like, if I do nothing else, I just want to help people understand that normal, everyday people are dealing with serious health things that you may not understand, and you may not even have the capacity to figure out how to understand it. But at a minimum, have some compassion for people.
The imprint that I want to leave behind is really just chasing your dreams, chasing your goals. Don't live a life that you don't want to live.
An impact that I see myself giving out to people, my family, my surroundings, my colleagues, is they can count on me. Not only growing up, but going through my career path, I've had people like that. I've had people that have helped me, mentors that I look up to. They've advised me, guided me. So that's what I want to do. That's my goal. I want to go through a bump in the road, go through whatever it takes, so I can become a wiser woman for my son as well. I want to teach my son what he needs to know when he grows up. I want to have my mother. I want to tell her, you know what, Mom, you don't have to worry. You don't have to work anymore. I got you. That's what I want. I want security, and not only financially, of course, mentally, but I want people to know that they can count on me. That's what I want.
I think it's different for each person in my life. For my parents, of course, you want your parents to be proud of you and the things that you've accomplished, and for them to have the opportunity to say, like, my daughter did it. You know, she did it, whatever that is for me. And for me, it's really about giving back to my community and really speaking into women and children, and just trying to bridge whatever gap that I can. For my daughter, it's to lead by example. You know, if anything, it's like my mom followed her heart. She did what she wanted to do, despite of the challenges and the hardship. So it's different for each person. I really just want to lead by example in a sense that you don't have to have it all together to do something about something. And I've been told plenty of times, like, well, how are you going to do this if you don't have that? And I believe that there's so many different situations where someone didn't have the obvious of what they needed, but they found a way to build around it. And so if anything, I would want people to see that I did my best to make a way out of no way in a lot of situations. And I think if you just put your first foot forward, everything else will fall into place.
I just want regular women and young girls to look at me and say, you know, if she can do it, then I can too.
I'm trying to get better at not being ashamed of where I come from, and also not feeling like an imposter in where I am right now, because I think both of those can prevent you from sharing the information you have, which that information can set so many people free, or it can just set one person free, and that might be what your whole purpose is about in life. So for me, I'm just trying to give it away. I'm trying to die empty.
Give us more insight.
Invisible illnesses are essentially diseases, usually lifelong chronic diseases. Sometimes they're genetic, sometimes the onset is later in life. Like for, endometriosis is one of those things that doesn't happen until after a woman starts her period, right? Sickle cell is one of those things you're born with. Lupus is one of those things that the onset is later and it depends on the person. All of these things at the end of the day are invisible diseases and nobody can see what's going on. But like, if you guys could take a picture of the inside of my lungs right now, it'd be like, what the hell has been going on? Like, there's been some type of war inside of your lungs. Imagine life. Oh, I missed another day at work. I gotta explain to my boss. My coworkers are gonna be pissed off because they think that I'm just not showing up to work because I don't feel like it. Now my social interactions are weird. There's so many layers that people with invisible diseases have to go through. Versus somebody with cancer, usually everybody knows they have cancer. So there's an automatic, okay, she's going through chemo. Everybody relax, right? And everyone goes, aw, you're right. We don't get that. And then I have to pull out a science book to help you understand how the blood vessels work and how the cells are operating and why my lungs look like a war zone. It's really hard. We have to be like doctors and explain stuff to people like we're the doctors. We have to explain stuff to doctors that don't know what's going on. So it's an extra layer of life. Life is already hard. It makes things so much harder, but it's like, what are you gonna do? You gonna give up?
So a council of elders got together in the early 90s and decided that they wanted to build a school that had an African-centered curriculum for inner city children of African American descent. And it basically just only focused on principles that were relevant to us as Black people in this country. Like, it kind of sounds stupid, but I didn't learn the traditional American history that everyone learned. And sometimes I think now that I'm older, that's a little bit of a disservice, but like, being able to announce when Christopher Columbus landed on these shores, or I don't know, the dates of the Civil War, or just, there are so many things that like, we just didn't focus on those things. Like, obviously they're a part of the curriculum, but more of it was just focused on an African-centered way of learning and way of doing. And so community unity was extremely important. Economic empowerment. I don't know if you guys know Milana Karenga, but he basically created Kwanzaa. And so the principles of Kwanzaa all talk about and touch on topics that now that I'm older, I'm like, wow, you know, these were like kind of laying the foundation. When I think about economic empowerment in the community, like I've been learning that since I was a kid. I learned about entrepreneurship in this school because they had a class where they had someone come in and teach us about it. And so in 5th grade. And so at that early age, I knew like, this is what I want to be, you know, and there were so many things in the outside of that are like, hey, you need to do this. You're supposed to get a degree. But like, it really gives that foundation of knowing that you're connected to something that's excellent, instead of feeling like you're the minority of something that's not really that great. And that's kind of the mindset I've always grown up with. Like, I never felt like being Black was a disservice or a disadvantage or, oh, I have to work 10 times harder. Like, that's just what we did. And that was just how I was raised, is that you work hard because you're excellent and you want to be the best you, not, oh, you know, if you talk like this or if you do that. Like, it just always gave me a sense of empowerment from a young age. And it wasn't just me, it was like me looking around at all of my peers and we were all united together on that front. We called our teachers Mama and Baba to represent the respect that we give them, you know, as our parents at school. And like, some of those teachers really served as mentors to me. And so just having that where I can look up to teachers who wanted to give me insight but also looked like me. Like, I didn't really have white teachers. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but like, being able to know that every position of power that you may want to achieve or that you may, you know, look up to is by people of color, people that look like you, makes you feel like you could grow up one day and be excellent.
Yes, okay. So Marching Beauties, we are an organization that caters to young girls in the inner city between ages 13 to 17. Our main focus is to help them develop their purpose. I think finding out who you are helps you find out what you're created to do. And so our main focus is to build sisterhood. We have one-on-one mentoring, so you have someone that's working with you to help you reach your short-term goals, but we're also looking at your long-term and figuring out ways to get you closer to that. And then we have our 12-week signature workshop, which is amazing. So we go into the schools, we spend 12 to 13 weeks with our girls, and so it is their safe haven. We try to create a space where they can absolutely be themselves, because before we can get to a place where, okay, who do you want to become? They have to be comfortable. They have to trust you. They have to know that you really care and you're not just there just because. But we want to expand our organization. We're doing an I Live campaign right now, which you guys can see. And so this campaign is really for our young kids who are feeling depressed and feeling like they have no purpose. So the I Live is because teen suicide is increasing and it's getting younger.
What I hope I leave behind is my nonprofit, Seeds of Eve, which is for young women who are pregnant, who are expecting, who are teens, who are unsure, who are unprepared or underprepared. And I have goals of evolving it to include other things. I hope I sustain it for my life. I hope I pass it to my children. I hope it evolves into something great. I hope it collaborates with other causes for women and for people in need and young people in need.
So life is really full circle. I want to start by saying that when I was younger, I would spend hours playing with dough. That was my outlet. Totally forgot about that. Went through high school not doing ceramics at all. Got to college, was studying sociology, originally studio arts, but I let everybody in their opinions and everything like that steer me away from, you know, studying fine arts or studio arts, and ended up graduating with sociology, and it was an elective that I had to take, and I chose ceramics. And my mom reminded me that that's what I started with. So after college, I took a break from it. I had to get my shit together. I didn't have a studio. I couldn't afford a monthly studio access fee. I was just dreaming at that point because I needed my basics taken care of, and you know, I had to be patient, and it taught me patience.
My passion is in entertainment, like all things entertainment, but I have my own online publication called theheadline.com. It's 3 years old now. It's a little baby, but it's growing. The Headline is dedicated to entertainment and feel-good news stories, community-based stories, highlighting the unsung heroes, and I'm just super passionate about making sure that everyone sees the positive aspect of everything. I'm not here to bash anybody. I'm not here to talk negative about anything. It's just your relief, where you go just to, you know, I like what The Headline said. We give out giveaways all the time, so it's something fun. I enjoy it.
Everything starts with you. My mom told me this: you point your finger out, there's how many more pointing back at you. So you can keep blaming other things and other people, but know that it's absolutely you that need to make the change.
Yeah. Okay.
Extras.
Oh, child, listen. Look, I ain't no insurance.
That's gonna be funny. Damn, that's a hard one.
I'm gonna say that again because I feel like I stuttered. Fast paced, like expectations high. You gotta stay fit out here. Niggas wearing leggings everywhere. Like, no. I'm pulling up in my sweats and my sneakers. So I feel like I'm not gonna give you the best answer for this question.
There's some things where I'm just like, I don't give a fuck how popular it is. I'm not interested.
Bro. It was so funny is I didn't even practice these answers. I just read it and was like, oh, these are gonna be great.
I just want to work within the domain that God has given me right now. It's the same thing when I go to work, and I'm literally managing a platform that millions of people come to every day for inspiration, for direction, for guidance. And so thinking intentionally about the information that we're putting out into the world and making sure that, you know, when people come to us, we are a safe space, and we're not like just giving you bullshit. You know what I mean? I want to create things that move people forward.
Jesus, why am I getting emotional? Okay. Jesus, I didn't think we were gonna get this deep.
Chase your dreams. Like, I hate when people spend time moping around because they doing something they don't want to do. Even if you're failing at it, you're not failing at it because you're doing it. You're trying.
Sometimes I like to watch random YouTube documentaries about women in history that doesn't make the mainstream. And then there's Frida. I love that movie so much. I love that movie so much. That movie makes me want to create. It makes me want to get out in my garden. It makes me want to cook. And I'm not necessarily the best cook, but it inspires me to just try something new, or let me try this new painting technique. And I don't have to sell my art. I don't have to be an artiste. I don't need to have my stuff in the gallery. It just helps me express myself. And if it comes out crappy, maybe I'll just feel crappy. Fuck it.
Or don't be comfortable at all with being a victim. Period. Into the statement.
Tear this government down. Y'all can do it. We with you.
Shout out to Black Mamas.
Right.
Shout out to Black Mamas.
Because I tell you, I was going to have to beat up Karen and her crew. No, I'm just
And that's a wrap. Yeah.
Hey.